Dow, who managed the New York Dolls, and he worked at Buddha Records and like things like Green Tambourine, 19th and Fruit Gum Company, all this kind of stuff. And Marty had a label called Red Star. He put out the Suicide record, and yeah, we were beginning to get involved. And we had a manager called Peter Leeds, who, to this day, I have no regrets about working with Peter. My partners have many, many objections about working with Peter. I have a different recollection. He was a major champion of the band, a real sort of positive, go-getter type of guy.
And did you take off in London and Australia before you kind of hit in America? Well,
we did the tour with, we were invited on the tour in 1977 with Iggy Pop, and David Bowie was producing Iggy, and they were promoting the album called The Idiot. Am I boring, Tony?
No, it's cool.
Okay, Nate.
It's a warm word.
It's always great to look into the audience and see people. When the fuck is this going to be over? Okay, recess, bell, ding, okay. Study, whatever it is, anyway. Lunchtime. Okay.
And
yeah, so we did the tour with you know, I've recounted these stories numerous times, and they'll all be in the book as well, but we played Max's Kansas City an evening sometime in, must have been February, I think, and afterward, it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, we got into an RV, and to this day, I still have no idea who was driving the RV. I have no idea. I know we all slept in one bed together, the 5 of us.
That's cozy.
And we left Max's Kansas City, woke up in the morning in Toronto, into a dressing room at a, rather, 2,500 seat venue, just all crashed out, and the door opens, and Iggy Pop and David Bowie walk in and introduce themselves. That was the beginning of, okay, I think something's happening here.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's
that was brilliant. That was great.
I wanted to circle back and talk a little bit about your look, because you guys have such a, look at you, they're on,
yeah,
Debbie's
I look really happy there,
huh?
That is a Winnebago.
Yeah,
that may be on that tour, actually. I think that might be a Bob Gruen photograph from that tour.
Yes, it is.
Debbie's ironing, Chris is putting a tie on, I'm smoking a cigarette, Jimmy is looking for his Coke file. Not yet. More like, where's the hash of the pot?
So let's talk about, I do hear tell that you have a special technique for your hairstyling. They used to bake your hair.
Oh, that was a long time ago, before I had a hairdryer to put my head in the oven. Yeah. Like Frank Sinatra with Ava Gardner, but in reverse. He tried to kill himself when Ava left him. Right?
Well, but his hair looked
Frank,
great.
was from Jersey, like me and Bruce Springsteen.
But he wasn't trying to get a good hairdo. He was just trying to take a dirt nap.
Yeah, right. No, I don't think he had hair, Frank Sinatra. He wore a piece all the time.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't
just
have
put the piece in the oven. He had like a pizza piece to put on his head.
I need to know how that actually works.
I'm getting glass now. Now I'm happy.
I need to know how that works, though. Like, you set the oven to what? Like warm? Or,
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't even want to. Who told you about that?
I have my sources.
The beer, we used to put beer in our hair. That was a great way to spike it. But if you see Almost Famous, those guys are doing the reverse because they're like metal guys. They put shaving cream in their hair to flatten their hair.
Right, right.
You recall that scene in Almost Famous? No, we would put beer and pizza grease, like the grease, the paper that the pizza comes on, and rub it in your hair. Before we could afford hair products.
And also, those hair products that you needed for that look didn't exist. So
I should have invented them.
You should have, because you were a groundbreaker. And what about the whole look? Because you referenced earlier your boots that supposedly got you the job in Blondie. That's what Chris Stein said. That
my shoes, my red shoes.
Yeah.
Well, it's very strange. Even when like Reservoir Dogs came out, they were all dressed like the cover of Parallel Lines. That was pretty surprising.
So you're right.
And Metallica have done it, and I think Blur for Enemy one year emulated the cover.
Well, it's an iconic cover, but for sure you guys have...
No, it's a well-known cover.
It's not iconic like your boots.
But, Chris and I both had pretty long hair, like rock and roll shag hairdos, New York Dolls at first. And, but then we began dressing in the suits and the skinny ties and all that. it's just really sort of like carryover from like the 60s, the whole look and style, which, everyone was wearing really flared trousers. I mean, when we went to LA the first time, it was pretty incredible because we were literally the only people that looked like that. And we were at like the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunset Strip, and everyone's like in like, satin trousers, and, long hair, shag, and like we're in there like dressed in black. We had our motorcycle jackets on inside out, wearing sunglasses inside, and it was really made a statement. And that whole sort of, I'm too fat to wear these narrow suits now that you can buy on any high street anywhere. I need a little bit of room. I'm more like a roomy guy now. But everything's slim fit now. All that.
Yes,
that was kind of like what we were on. Tight suits, shirts buttoned up all the way to the top.
Where did you find those clothes? Were you raiding your grandparents' closets, or
thrift shops? And also there was a shop on Canal Street that sold those black suits that we kind of have on the cover for $10 a piece. Like they just had them in bulk. My friend actually had an Army-Navy store in New Jersey, and in the basement they had all brand new vintage clothing that they were also selling for bulk. And I remember one day I went over there and got so much stuff. I went back to the Bowery and outfitted the whole band, and a lot of the stuff on the back of the first album cover are my clothes that I kind of gave to everybody. And there's loads of pictures of us wearing each other's clothes, Debbie wearing my shirts and stuff.
So you were the stylist?
No, we all were. I mean, that green iridescent suit there, that's like a thrift store suit that I'm wearing there. Shark skin, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say it was. We all kind of, it was a big part of us all coming together. We all had this similar aesthetic.
Yeah.
And the stuff that we don't have in common is really what made the combination of all the things we do have in common, and then the certain peculiarities of each of us, both sexually and musically. Not really.
Don't fall off the edge, by the way.
Oh yeah, fucking hell, because sometimes the drum marches like that. It's like you're playing these parties and just goes like that. It's really horrible. I hate when that happens. I've fallen off the stage a few times. I think this is going pretty well.
No one's gotten hurt yet. No one's fallen off.
I think it's time for another reading, though, because I don't want to get caught up in this. Because I'm trying to test the waters with this. Okay, so a lot of people ask, how the heck did the band get back together? Because we're apart. Our 40th anniversary is next year, and we're going to celebrate that. We're definitely coming back. We're going to do a world tour next year, by the way. Anybody who's interested. And we were apart for quite a while, but it's all kind of redundant now, but we never really dispersed with our business affairs. They were all intact all the while we were separated, so we still had our business affairs in order, where we were all mutually joined together, and, whatever sort of that generated, we all participated in. I have a little story called The Other Side of the Dream, which is what I consider to be my life to be now. Because we all had this magnificent dream of having success and doing what you wanted to do, and achieving it, and being able to never really have to work and all that kind of stuff. Especially Chris Stein. I don't think he ever had a job in his life. And so anyway, this is called The Other Side of the Dream. So I think I read that one about Club 82 so that was called Early Days. So this is The Other Side of the Dream. Fast forward 25 years. And I'm in Los Angeles recording studio with the Plimsolls, the band best known for the song A Million Miles Away and its writer, Peter Case. They had recently reformed me as their drummer. We were working on the record which came to be known as Cool Trash. By the way, that's a really cool record if you guys want to Google that. I'm told there's a call. I pick up the phone, and on the other end is Blondie keyboardist Jimmy Destry calling from New York. Jimmy tells me somewhat unbelievably that he's been in contact with Chris and Debbie and they want to reform Blondie with the 4 original members. It seems that Chris owes the IRS back taxes somewhere in the high 6 figures. I'm not surprised. I never thought it would be for something as simple as the desire to make music together again. I also thought that we would reform one day. But what are the other ex-members, Frank Infanti and Nigel Harrison? More on them later in the story. Jimmy goes on to tell me that Chris had placed an ad in the New York Village Voice trying to sell off his gold and platinum record awards. It seems that one of the respondents, a major collector of rock and roll memorabilia, could not believe that Chris was in such a destitute situation and offered to put him in touch with his friend Harry, a rock and roll manager. The next thing I know, I'm on a plane to New York City to meet Harry Sandler and one Alan Kovac of Left Bank Management. It seems Left Bank had been instrumental in resurrecting the career The career of 80s pretty boys, Duran Duran, was ready, willing, and able to do the same for us. As I walk into the small conference room, I am greeted by my three partners. They all appear to be the worse for wear, with pot bellies, double chins, missing teeth, and somewhat rumpled clothing. There also is someone I don't recognize, a small, somewhat sheepish man with shifty eyes. This man is one Alan Kovac. I also noticed a speakerphone on the desk. Would someone be conferencing in today? Yes, Harry from the office in LA, where I had just come from. Couldn't I have stayed in LA with Harry, too? The meeting starts off with Alan telling Chris that most folks in the music business either think he's dead or a Nazi. Alan wants us to record 2 new songs to be included in a Blondie Greatest Hits package. I began shaking my head and saying we need to make an all-new Blondie album, or otherwise there's no point of the reunion. Alan seems to disagree. It would not be the first time that he and I did not meet eye to eye.
So let's talk a little bit about...
anyway, I hope that wasn't too offensive to my partners. It's just all true.
What can I say? The truth can never be offensive.
Well, yeah, say the truth.
The truth will set you free. So,
I actually have one more story, but we'll get to that. Well, that'll be the big climax. Go ahead, honey.
I'm getting juiced up for that climax.
Me too.
So let's talk a little bit about something that you alluded to in that anecdote. So you were referring to, somewhat delicately, you're referring to the tensions in the band. I mean, what was it that led to the split in '82? Were you just sick of each other? Were you just too over-familiar with each other?
Well, one of the big things I attribute it to, which the other three would disagree with, is us leaving our manager, Peter Leeds, actually. I have real admiration for somebody like Paul, with U2, or Alan Landau, John Landau with Bruce, that long-time managerial relationship. I think it's a really wonderful thing, and we have great management now, don't get me wrong, but I think the beginning of the end was when we lost our manager, Peter, and I. The others, when we do interviews and that he comes up, the others know how I feel about it. I just have a different, he would just sit there and tell me how great we were, how great Debbie was, how great everything was going to be. I don't really remember him being disparaging, particularly at all. But I wasn't Debbie, I wasn't Chris, so I don't know what he said to them. Chris was ill. It's been well documented. He had this disease called pemphigus, I believe, which at the time we didn't really know what he had. It's a skin deteriorating disease. He's fully well recovered. He has 2 great kids and a wife and loving life and all that, so that's great. There was drugs involved, certain people had more problems with it than others. And I think we just needed to take a break, because we had been working hard. I think we did 5 or 6 albums in maybe 4 or 5 years, so it was a big workload.
Yeah.
I was loving it. I'm living the dream. There's no question in my mind, But I also thought I'd be done with this by the time I was 30. Now I'm almost 60, so think about that. But I think we needed to take a break. I think people they were in the throes of addiction, of not knowing how to really deal with success, financial issues, feeling as though you're being ripped off, maybe just wanting to take complete control and not have to deal with other people, your other partners, and all of the above. Sad, really, but actually maybe it worked out for the best.
And did you come back, do you think everybody had a refreshed perspective about it? Because, they kind of realized, actually, this isn't such a bad way to earn a living.
Well, I think everyone continued in music, I certainly did a lot of stuff, I played with Eurythmics, which is actually a little anecdotal story about that, for a number of years in the 80s, and I also played in a band called The Romantics for 10 years, and I had a band called Checkered Past right when Blondie stopped with Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols and with Nigel from Blondie and a few other folks. And I think Jimmy is the only one who left the music business and worked construction. And it's sad to this day that he's not as, let's say, prominent as he should be in all of this. And it's to his own detriment that that happened. So he's actually no longer really has anything to do with the band. And it's sad because he's a brilliant songwriter and a great guy in general, but he had a few serious problems that he never managed to get over. And all that stuff was going on, and you know, I mean, I was like, by that time, I was only like 25 years old. I was like completely washed up, you know, it's like the band's over, what am I going to do? But I just persevered, you know, I mean, it's about the process for me. I mean, I can, especially with drumming, you can't really do it on your own, you have to collaborate. And it's, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, if you're a writer, or whatever, you have to continue to do it, whether you're writing in your bedroom and sending it to your girlfriend, or whether you're trying to write a book, or whether you're writing a song about breaking up with your girlfriend, or whether you're writing a song for Michael Jackson, I don't know how he came up, but actually he's in my story.
What's the scuttlebutt behind when Blondie got inducted into the Hall of Fame? And
well, that was just complete utter bullshit on all parts, but yeah. I particularly was really overjoyed that we were inducted on the first time we were nominated. I would have liked to have posed with the rest of the members of the band, do some photos. The director, the management was in touch with the director. We made it clear that we didn't want to have the other two people involved as far as participating in our part of the show.
And why was that?
There had been a lawsuit about us when we got back together, that Frank and Nigel were not involved. And so anyway, basically I think with the whole sort of MO that day was we were going to do our bit and they were going to do their bit. But it just all kind of crashed together on stage. And I know that the director told them, the other three, that you know they were being inducted as well, and he's not going to like police them. They can do whatever they want. So what they chose to do was kind of make a stand about wanting to play. But they're all. I preface that with saying that I'm friends with everyone, except not really that much with Jimmy anymore. Even though I just said good things about him. And it was heartbreaking for me to see it go down like that. And aside from my parents passing away, it was probably like one of the most. You know, really toughest days that I've had to deal with as far as all the sort of all this craziness of just the music business. You know, it was sad the way it went.
Yeah,
I didn't really like it.
Because you know, on the outside, you're looking at it, you're thinking, why can't everybody just get along? And you know, it's your big day, and maybe there's one last gig and that kind of thing. So
well, that wouldn't really needed to be done, but just the fact that we could have some sort of solidarity on stage would have been nicer.
Yeah,
instead of that acrimonious situation that occurred.
It
was sad. I just went to my room afterwards. I remember Paul Schaefer, you guys know Paul Schaefer, the music director for David Letterman's show, and he's the MD for the band at the Hall of Fame all the time. I remember I was in my room and there was a knock on my door, and the door was like Paul Schaefer and Kid Rock and my wife and all these people like holding bottles of champagne. I just like slammed the door in the face. Went back to bed. It was sad. I was very, very upset. I mean, I internalized it. It's in the book. It'll be in the book.
It's all in the book. And so talk a little bit about this book. When are we going to see it?
It's a work in progress. You know, aside from Blondie, I've been involved in a lot of different musical endeavors over the years, and there's a little backstory to my upbringing, which is kind of incidental, but I guess there'd be a little bit of that there. But you know, like the big thing, right in '83 when Blondie stopped, I had befriended Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart back in 1980. I went to, well, I have a little piece about it, because a lot of people ask me about Eurythmics. I just did an interview for the 20th anniversary of the album called Revenge, and the guy who runs their website was there the other night. He told me he had over 1 million hits on my interviews. I was impressed with that. It was a really great time in my life to work with them. So this is called Who's That Girl? You guys might know that song, Who's That Girl, the Eurythmics song. In early 1981, Blondie took a break, and I went over to the UK to work with my friends, the singer-actor Michael Debar and Nigel Harrison, a bass player from Blondie. I was going to do a short tour with them behind the record that Michael had made with Blondie producer Mike Chapman from Mike's DreamWorks label. I stayed for 7 months. We took a nice 4-bedroom flat in Pimlico behind Victoria Station. Also along for the ride was Rory Johnson, who had been Malcolm McLaren's liaison in the US during the Pistols tour. Through Rory, we met ex-Pistol guitarist Steve Jones, who was trying to kick a drug habit with a combination of ginseng and Indian curry. Steve had a nasty habit of leaving his empty ginseng vials scattered around the flat, so you would want to make sure you kept your shoes on when inside. One day, I hear a nasty crunch sound. Poor maid had been cleaning down on her knees and had come down on one of Steve's glass vials. Ouch. It was during the tour we came up with the name Checkered Past, a band that we would later put together in '83 with both Steve Jones and son of 60s kids TV star Soupy, Tony Sales. There'll be much more on the Checkers later. One day after the tour, Michael said he was going back home to the States, and out the door he went, leaving all his possessions behind, never to return to the Pimlico flat.
Wow.
Soon after, I found a beautiful penthouse flat on Curzon Street in the heart of London's Mayfair section. The Club Planets was around the corner in Burlington Arcade off Piccadilly. We just passed that on the way here, as a matter of fact. Boy George was the resident DJ. One night, Michael Jackson was there with a little Band-Aid over his nose. He was telling everyone it was his Adam Ant look. We all know better now. I also recall Lemmy being there playing the fruit machine, and also recall doing drugs with the late Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. One night in early June, I was in the VIP room at Planets. While the Blondie album Auto American played in the background, I was approached by a tall, gorgeous, short-haired blonde. Her name was Annie. She told me she had just split from her band, The Tourists, and was in the process of making a new record with the guitarist from The Tourists, and would I be interested in hearing some songs and maybe working with them. Annie tells me that she's a huge Blondie fan. We agreed to meet Sunday for lunch at her flat in Crouch End, North London. It was there on that Sunday that I began a 10-year working relationship with Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart, by the way. Oh, teary-eyed. It's like, what's that show? This Is Your Life, right?
Well, it is a little bit like that.
It is a little bit like that. By the way, Adam, what the fuck are you doing here? All right.
So, to continue the This Is Your Life element, I'd love to throw the questions open to the floor if anybody wants to ask Clem anything. Do you have
That you don't already know?
a burning yearning?
Yeah, one.
Okay.
What song do you enjoy playing the most with Blondie?
What song do you enjoy playing the most
You know,
with Blondie?
What song do I enjoy playing? Well, people ask me that a lot. You know, like, the songs are like children, like, who's your favorite, right? That's an old cliche. It's an iconic cliche. It's a well-known cliche. Anyway, right now, we've chosen, I can relate to that more so in what we're doing now in the set, maybe not in general over the whole course of the whole thing with the band. We chose to do the set that we're doing now, which is really great. We chose to do the song that we normally would do last first, and the song we normally did first last. So we start the set with One Way or Another, that famous song by One Direction. And the very last song of the set was kind of a surprise. If anybody's going tonight, I'm going to spoil the surprise, but it's Dreaming. And that song really goes down well as a real capper at the end of the whole show, and I'm really enjoying playing that. And it's a tremendous feedback from the audience when we play that song, because we've rearranged it a bit where it's kind of like people can join in. So really enjoying Dreaming quite a bit right now. Supposedly that's Joey Ramone, was Joey Ramone's favorite song. Everyone always talks about how great the drums are on that, which it was just a pass. It was like we weren't really recording, we were just running through the song in the studio, and that's the track that wound up on Beat to the Beat, which goes back to my thing of not really seeking perfection. It's more about emotion and energy. So there you go. Dreaming would be the answer.
Okay, can I ask this? You're obviously a good drummer, we know that. But spinning sticks, how are you so good at that?
How do you get so good at spinning sticks? Your tricks?
Well, you have to have a callus in between here. Your hands have to be quite calloused. You know? There's a guy called Dino Danelli. It's actually a Jersey kind of bar band type thing. There's a band called the Rascals. What do you got? You got a stick? Yeah. Well, you know, actually it comes from...
Alright, show and
Okay,
tell.
now I feel like Jimmy Fallon. Okay. It comes from Oh, Mark on. Only kidding. It's amazing. Anyway, it actually comes from traditionally, it comes from holding a stick traditionally, like that. That's where it comes from, and of course cradles and that. But I play mostly match grip, so I do it between the index and the middle finger. So it's like that. But it comes from that. But it's just a gimmick, you know. There's a guy called Dino Danelli, who's a really, actually one of my major inspirational drummers in a band called the Rascals. He has a show on, they just had a show on Broadway called Once Upon a Dream based on one of their albums that Steve Van Zandt from Bruce Springsteen's band is producing, and now they're on tour with it. They're probably going to try to come to, I don't know, did the Rascals ever mean anything in the UK?
Yeah.
You know, Groovin' and...
Groovin', yeah. On the Sunday afternoon.
Oh, they're all back together in their original form, and they're great.
More questions? Yes.
So, Clem, you've often talked about how when you auditioned for Blondie, that you were looking for your Mick Jagger, that kind of figure, and that Debbie was that. And there was kind of, been thinking more about this, because at that point, Blondie as they existed, Debbie, the stilettos, whatever you auditioned for, were considered kind of the least likely to. And a lot of people hadn't seen Debbie as being this well-known, iconic figure. So you must have seen something. Well-known. You must have seen something there that other people weren't seeing, because when you actually, it's been something I've been meaning to kind of like follow up on for a while, because when you look, they were getting, it really was, that band's not going to make it, Debbie's not going to make it. So I just wanted to ask about that. Did you think you saw something in that, like, that's the person whose band I want to be in, that other people were not seeing at the time?
Yeah, I absolutely do feel as though I was very impressed by Debbie's magnetic charisma and her potential. And I think you would have to be a fool not to be able to realize that. I think the stage that we were at as a band and the venues that we were performing in were not necessarily conducive to our type of music. Particularly, everyone was too hip for the room. We were a little more, I mean, I love bubblegum music. I love 50s music. I love doo-wop music. I love, and that stuff wasn't the predominant source of inspiration. It was more like 13th Floor Elevators and the Velvet Underground and things like that. So we were thinking outside the box a little bit. I actually think I would have made a very good A&R guy. Actually, I feel as though I contributed quite a bit to the rhythmic stuff as well early. I really knew that Annie had something as well, for what it's worth, but some of the millions of other people acknowledge both of those people as having that impact. But I think Debbie being a woman, and Patty was more like a guy. Her whole thing was, she was trying to be, she dressed like a man, she kind of like, Keith Richards-y, and Debbie was much more feminine, and much more obviously Marilyn Monroe-like, like movie star-like. That wasn't particularly in vogue on the scene in the Lower East Side at the time. So, yeah, I think for sure. I mean, I saw the potential. I mean, when they were writing original songs, the influences, like I said, whether it be Iggy Pop or Velvet Underground or the Ronettes or surf music or all that stuff we had in common. And we just kind of went from there. But the thing that, yeah, I was looking for like a frontman, like an Iggy, or, but came across in a different way with Debbie. And when she does, one of my favorite things with Debbie is when she performs songs by men, and she interprets them. We used to do Moonlight Mile, the Doors song. I remember when we played in the Whiskey in '77 on Sunset Strip, Ray Manzarek from the Doors, who also just recently passed, came to see us in particular to hear us do Moonlight Drive. Moonlight Mile's the Stones, right? Moonlight Drive. Hey, I didn't recognize you. How are you, Katie?
All right, thank you.
You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and we did Please Please Me. We did Get Off My Cloud the other night for Glastonbury, and we've done Iggy Pop songs, and it's really comes across in an entirely different way from a woman's perspective, and it's like one of the ingenious things about Debbie is that she can interpret a song like that. And I particularly would like to see us do a covers record, as cliche as that may sound. I really think if we did one, it would be really sensational.
Well, it's all in the choices, isn't it? It's the choices of the covers. We have time for a couple more questions.